All right, this is our last day of the simple things about probability. This is about conditional probability. So the probability one event happens given that something else has already happened. We're also going to hit on two-way tables in here and make sure that we know how to read those. So when we talk about conditional probability for events A and B, conditional probability is the probability that B will happen given that A has already happened. So we use the notation, the probability of B given A, that bar says given. And the way we'd calculate that is we would talk about the probability of A and B happening, and we would divide that by the probability of A happening. And that's just one way to calculate it. A lot of times we just don't even have to pay attention to certain parts of that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Some examples. Mitchell drew a card from a standard deck of playing cards. What's the probability that he drew a queen given that the card was red? So if we're going to follow the traditional model, we want to make sure that we're talking about the right symbols. We're talking about the probability of getting a queen given that the card was red. Okay, so according to our formula, that means we're going to care about the probability of being a queen and red, and we're going to divide that by the probability of just being red. So the probability of being a queen and red is 4 out of 52 for the probability of being a queen times 26 out of 52 for the probability of being red, which is 1 out of 26. And then the probability of being red is 26 out of 52. And so we do have to do a little bit of fraction math here. When I add 26, instead of divided by a fraction, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal. And when we do that, we get 2 over 26, or 1 out of 13. So that's following the standard formula. The other way to think about this is just to think about, well, given that the card was red, that means I'm changing my sample space. I can only be talking about the 26 red cards, and of those 26 red cards, there are only 2 queens, and that gives me my 1 in 13 probability as well. I usually go with the second method unless I'm looking at a really complicated situation. If we're looking at part B, a number from 1 to 100 is randomly selected. What's the probability that it's a perfect square given that it's an odd number? So probability of perfect square given that it's odd. All right, so that means that we are going to care about the probability of being a perfect square and odd at the same time out of the probability of being odd. So we know we're talking the numbers 1 to 100. There's 100 numbers in there. We have to know how many perfect squares there are in there. And I know there are 10. So the probability of being a perfect square is a 10 out of 100 times there are 50 odds in those 100, which gives us 1/20th. Out of our probability of being odd, we said there are 50 out of 100 that are odd, so this is really out of 1/2, and then we just have to simplify. 1/20th times 2 instead of dividing by a half gives me a 1 in 10 shot. Now, if we think about it holistically, the probability of selecting a perfect square, given that we're only choosing from the odd numbers, we want to think about how many odd numbers there are to choose from in there, and there are 50, and how many of those are perfect squares. So again, I would need to know that there are 10 perfect squares between 1 and 100, and that only half of them are odd, so we need to know that that's 5, but 5 out of 50 gives us 1 out of 10. Either of these are straightforward ways to deal with it. Like I say, the blue way follows the formula, which is very nice, and especially if you have a more complicated situation, you might need to deal with those. But here we're dealing with situations where we're very familiar with our sample space, so we actually know how to pick out the important values. And that really plays into what we're going to do with two-way tables. Two-way tables, in this case, are showing us the number of first class and coach class passengers on a plane who checked 1 bag, 2 bags, or no bags. And we need to find each probability of selecting such a passenger at random from the group. All right, you'll notice I also filled in my totals. Sometimes those come to you in your two-way table. Sometimes you need to add those in. So our first question, what's the probability of getting coach class with no bags? So we want to figure out, we're talking out of which people. I always like to start with what is my full set of outcomes. And here, coach class with no bags, I'm just selecting them from the whole group. So out of the whole 160 people, how many people are coach class with no bags? Well, if I follow no bags over to coach class, I find out that it's those 18 people. So this is 18 out of 160, which equals 0.1125. If we're talking about the probability of first class with at least 1 bag, again, we have to think about what are we selecting from, and since it doesn't say, we're selecting from the whole group of 160. So what's the probability of getting first class with at least 1 bag? We need to know how many people have at least 1 bag in first class. So at least 1 bag means the 12 people who have 1 bag plus the 16 people who have 2 bags, which is 28 out of 160. Or 0.175. Now, when I see the phrase at least 1 bag, when I see at least 1 or at most, it starts me thinking about the word or and thinking, well, at least 1 bag is 1 or 2 bags. But personally and mathematically speaking, it would actually be easier to use a complement. It would be easier for me to think of at least 1 as being the opposite of none. So if I take all of my first class passengers, all 30 of them, and if I take away the 2 who had no bags, I can put that out of whatever I want, in this case still 160, and that gives me the same probability, but sometimes it might be a little bit less messy. When you see the phrase at least 1, or when you see the phrase at most, start thinking about how can I change this from being an or statement of 1 or 2 or 3 and changing it into everything but 1, everything but none, everything but perfect. Thinking about it that way is going to make your math a lot easier and account for a lot of the combination and permutation stuff that we kind of glanced over at the beginning of this unit. So now we're getting into actual conditional probabilities with our two-way table. They ask us, what's the probability of being in coach class given that you have 1 bag? So the fact that I see that given 1 bag, that tells me that the total I want are the total of people with 1 bag, those 72 people right over here. Those are going to be the only people we are concerned with, are those 72 people. We can ignore everybody else. We only care about the 1 bag people in this row. All right, so now what's the probability of them being in coach class? Well, we want to see how many of them are in coach class. It turns out there are 60. So we have 60 out of 72, which is 0.833. We use the same idea for the probability of 2 bags given first class. We are only concerned with our first class people, which are these people. Of those people, so out of all 30 of them, How many of them have 2 bags? Here we're only concerned with those 16 people. So our probability is 16 out of 30, which reduces to 0.533. And that's what we want to deal with. Whenever you're talking about given, you really want to start blocking out the rest of your table. Only focus on that one group and figure out of that group in the denominator, how many are the people that you are interested in your numerator who have the actual qualification that you want. All right, that's the easiest way to work with two-way tables. Again, if you wanted, you could go through and calculate that whole formula, but I feel like with a two-way table, it's not worth it. Okay, now we could also use two-way tables for using ands. Okay, whenever you see and, we're selecting 2 people here. So we're going to choose one person and then another person. So what is the probability of choosing a first class person and then a coach class person? Now, I didn't talk in the directions about replacement, so I'm going to assume that I'm grabbing a person out of line and they are out of line forever. And that's just going to be an assumption I'm going to have to be comfortable with. All right, so the probability of choosing a first class person, we've got 30 of those out of all 160 people. And then I want to select a coach class person of the remaining 159 people. And there happen to be 130 coach class people. So I multiply here because it said and that gives me 0.1533. So here we have a master list of all of our probability rules that we've talked about this week. These are all about how to combine different simple events together. So if we're trying to combine with the word and, we know we're going to be multiplying. And we just care about if we have independent or dependent events. We care about whether or not that second event depends on the first one. All right. When we have the word given, we know we're actually changing our denominator there. Okay. And we're going to change out of how many people we're taking our situation. And especially in a two-way table, it makes it really easy to just cover up and start looking just at the one column or just at the one row. When we have the word or means plus to me, but I just have to make sure that I'm subtracting off anything that I'm double counting if my events aren't mutually exclusive. And then that word not means that I need to subtract from 1. Hopefully this has cleared some things up and gets us ready for next week when we're going to talk about binomial probabilities and probability distributions.